non-essential media. The Coherence Principle stresses not to use extraneous illustrations, text, or audio. As a designer of a multimedia presentation or a lesson, you have to always keep in mind if the element you're adding is increasing or improving the effectiveness of learning. Here are two examples of designs that goes against the Coherence Principle. Can you find what's not right? How about here? Why do designers use extraneous text? It can be to add additional interest, to expand upon key points, or to provide detailed information. The effects of adding extraneous words for interest have been studied, and the results have shown that adding seductive details does not improve learning. In fact, it actually distracts the students from what's important in the material or the lesson. When adding extraneous words to expand upon key points, the findings for that have been that students perform better or retain the information and are able to transfer the information better when content is concise and summarized without additional information. Studying extraneous words for technical depth. Studies have shown that quantitative details are distracting from the learners as well, and that it affects the qualitative meaning of the lesson. Why do designers use extraneous graphics or video? Again, it's usually to add visual interest or to drum up interest for the learner to hopefully get them more engaged. The effects of adding extraneous pictures and videos to a lesson is very similar to the text. It's distracting and it's disruptive to the learner or to the learning process. It takes away from the cognitive capacity of the learner. And although it can tap into the emotional responses of the learner, it doesn't necessarily promote a deeper learning. Why extraneous audio? Again, for the same reasons, designers tend to use this to emphasize or to add special effects or more effects to the words or the graphics that's being presented in the lesson. Studies have shown that, again, this is not effective and it does not improve deeper learning. In fact, it does the opposite. It's distracting to the learner. It can slow down the cognitive processes when reading, writing, or trying to comprehend the information, and it can cause cognitive overload. So to sum up the offenders of the principle, of the Coherence Principle, we're looking at designers including non-essential stories or details in text or narrative, including detailed or realistic illustrations that can be distracting to a learner, using graphics and words for decoration, using background music and environmental sounds for special effects or emotional responses. Now that we've gone over the guidelines for using the Coherence Principle, here's an example of a design that does not follow the principle. It uses a detailed illustration and it's very wordy. So again, it's very difficult to comprehend and be able to put the information together. Now here's an example of this same design following the Coherence Principle. The text has been broken down into chunks. It has arrows that's pointing to the different sections within this very simplified illustration, so it's easy to understand and comprehend. And it's following guidelines for the text and for the illustration. And there is no sound, background music, or additional environmental sounds to it. So in a nutshell, this is a perfect example of what a design should look like. This concludes my presentation. For my final project, I plan to use multimedia in 2 sections of my course. One as an introduction to the course, providing instructor perspective on the course, what it entailed, and what's to come. And secondly, to lay the groundwork, defining and explaining what layout and composition actually is before students proceed with the learning module to go into what the principles are and how they should be used.